Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to talk today about seeing how easy it is to file your 1099s through Rentec. Again, thank you guys for joining us. If you have any questions throughout the course of the webinar, you can feel free to ask them in the questions panel of your GoToWebinar panel there. I'll be happy to try to get those answered. I will say we did leave some time at the end for question and answer, so if you don't hear the answer to them right off the bat, we will go ahead and answer them at the end. So getting right into it, let's start with our agenda. We'll do some quick introductions. We'll walk through 1099 basics. We'll talk about 1099 due dates, some of the changes that occurred, mostly last year, but it's still applicable this year. We'll really briefly talk about Nell Co services, show you how Nell Co interacts with your Rentec software to give you guys the easiest, fastest, very affordable 1099 solution for this January. And then, as I mentioned before, we will leave a lot of time, questions and answers at the end. So as a means of introduction, you know who Rentec Direct is. They're your software that you use for your property management business there. All on the line with me, I have Heather and Catherine. They're going to be answering some questions in the questions section. So we do have some representatives from Rentec there to make sure that I'm staying on the rails here. I am Jason. I am the Partner Relationship Manager for Nell Co Solutions. Who is Nell Co? You may or may not know who Nell Co is, but here at Nell Co, we think about year-end reporting, right? We consider ourselves the year-end reporting experts. You probably think about how to file your 1099s and what you need to do with your 1099s for 1 month out of the year, January. Hopefully you don't think about it for that entire month. Hopefully it's just a couple days or less that you can do your 1099s, and you actually have to think about it. Well, here at Nell Co, we think about year-end filing 12 months out of the year. It's just something that's always on our mind. It's our focus. And while January is a very busy month for us, as that's most of the time when you get the year-end reporting going, we are thinking about this year-round. How do we make our products better? How do we make sure our products are compliant? How do we make sure they're easy to use? How do we make sure they are meeting all the reporting requirements of our users and our software partners? And so here at Nell Co, that's what we do. That's what we focus on. You may have also heard of Nell Co. We also provide checks that are compatible with the Rentec software. So those are available as well. So rather than sitting here and looking at my picture, I'm going to toss a quick poll out there. I just want to know how many 1099 miscellaneous forms do you usually file every year? So if you guys wouldn't mind just taking a quick second, punching an answer to that poll up there, and we'll come right back. All right, thank you everybody for participating in the poll there. I'm going to share the results here. Most of you guys are filing less than 20 forms or 20 or less forms. Pretty typical of a lot of Nell Co users. Some of you guys are a little bit larger than that, but yeah, pretty typical form volumes for those Nell Co users of our web reporting center software. So let's get started with 1099 basics, right? So who needs to file this Form 1099? And the answer is a Form 1099 miscellaneous must be filed by any individual or entity that has paid out $600 or more in rents or services performed for a trade or business by people not treated as its employees. A W-2 is what you use to send to your employees, right? You probably have a payroll service that does that, or a payroll application. That's what you send to show the government what you paid out to your employees in income, or for their income. A 1099 miscellaneous is for non-employees to show that there was a payment made out. And that $600 is kind of the key number. Once you get over $600 is when you want to file a Form 1099 miscellaneous. Less than $600, you do not. One other quick thing. This is services performed for a trade or business. This is not for if I hire somebody to come and paint my house and it's more than $600, it's not in the course of a trade or business. A couple other instances where you might need to file a 1099 miscellaneous: if you paid at least $10 in royalties or broker payments in lieu of dividends or tax-exempt interest, and if you withheld federal income tax under backup withholding rules. So that's just a couple of the common ones. Obviously, the first one is the most common time that you'll need to file a 1099 miscellaneous. As I kind of mentioned too, the 1099 miscellaneous is kind of a broad category. It's meant to kind of be a catch-all form, and as such, it is the most common 1099 miscellaneous that we see filed. There are other kinds of 1099s out there that we're not going to go over. 1099 miscellaneous is the one that you'll probably be filing, so that's the one we're talking about today. So when don't you need to file? Form 1099 miscellaneous does not need to be filed when the amount paid is less than $600. If the amount is the payment is made to a corporation. And so how do you know if something is a corporation or not? I would say if they are an S Corp or a C Corp, you definitely do not need to file a 1099 to them. The payment is for the purchase of goods instead of services. Now, this is a kind of a key thing, is that the idea here is that you are reporting the income that you paid out to somebody, not necessarily how much you spent. So if you went out to Home Depot and you bought, $1,000 for a new water heater for one of the units, or whatever the case might be, and you probably might be saying, hey, we paid out $100,000. We paid out the big payment there, and there was. I apologize. I just realized that we were stuck on some poll slides. So I'm going to go back just for a second. Some of these. Again, Form 1099 miscellaneous filed by any individual or entity that's paid out $600 more in rents, $10 in royalty or broker payments, dividends or tax-exempt interest, or withheld federal income tax under backup withholding rules. Don't need to file 1099 miscellaneous if the amount paid is less than $600. The payment is made to a corporation. Again, that was the Home Depot example we were talking about. So if you made that payment to a corporation, you don't need to. And again, if the payment is made for the purposes of goods instead of services. So this is, again, you're trying to report income that somebody else received. It is not to collect all the different goods that you purchased over the course of the year. It is to talk about income that somebody received from you. So a couple of quick things about due dates. States have changed some due dates for this year. So if you have to file to states, and Nell Co will file to any states that need to have 1099s filed to them. And here's some quick state changes. For example, the state of Kansas, the state of Maine, the state of Minnesota, the state of, those all require filing by January 31st. So we want to talk a little about the due dates here. January 31st seems to be the magic date for filing. Quick thing, if you are in Iowa, initially this year Iowa was requiring 1099 filing for 2017. That was rescinded. However, if you are filing W-2s in the state of Iowa, those still need to be filed. Oklahoma is again reporting 1099 reporting. They suspended that last year, so if you have Oklahoma filings to do, you will need to do those for 1099s this year. You didn't last year, but you will need to report them this year. All these changes for states are available out at www.nellcosolutions.com/state changes. So feel free to go out there. We have all these changes listed as far as the different due dates for state filing. So let's talk about all the filing deadlines. So in 2017, you need to postmark these recipients, right? So a 1099, you need to send it to a couple different places. First off, you have to send it to a recipient. So whoever performed the work, they need to know that they need to report this income when they go to file their tax return. And that needs to be dropped in the mail then by January 31st, 2018. If you don't drop them in the mail, if they don't have that postmark date of at least January 31st of this year, you are eligible for a fine from the IRS. So make sure that those are dropped in the mail and postmarked by that date. They need to be postmarked to the IRS or the SSA by February 28th. That's if you're filing paper. You don't want to file paper, so we're just going to move on. Now, if you're electronically filing those to the IRS, you have until April 2nd, 2018. And the key date there is April 2nd, 2018. You need to have everything filed with the IRS. State deadlines vary. That's what we were just talking about a second ago. But the IRS requires everything to be electronically filed by April 2nd to them. So you have to get them postmarked out to the recipients by January 31st. You need to have them electronically filed to the IRS by April 2nd. Now, there is a change that occurred last year, and this is if any W-2 that goes out there, or any 1099 miscellaneous with information in box 7, I'll show you box 7 here in just a second, needs to be filed. Again, they need to be postmarked to the recipients by January 31st, 2018. They need to be postmarked to the IRS if you're mailing them, again, by January 31st. Or if you're electronically filing them to the IRS, you need to have them filed by January 31st, 2018. So why is this? So there is a difference whether or not there's information in box 7. Box 7 of the 1099 miscellaneous is for non-employee compensation. And so again, all W-2 forms and 1099 miscellaneous forms, information box 7, must be due to the IRS by January 31st. This was a fraud prevention method. So basically what was happening last year is that somebody would file a fraudulent tax return, usually due by April 15th. Well, they do that right at the beginning of February, get a big tax return as soon as the IRS opened up for filing, and then disappear. The IRS was going, well, wait a second, if we don't get these forms from the employers or from the 1099 payers, we don't have any way to confirm that the amount was legitimate. And so what they were seeing is a lot of fraud was happening with 1099 box 7. And basically that threw up a red flag for them. And so they said, we need to have this data from the payers earlier. So this way, when somebody goes in and files a tax return and they have an amount in box 7 and they're getting a huge tax return, the IRS is going to go, hey, wait a second, let's check and make sure we actually received a 1099 miscellaneous from the person who said they paid this money, and then they can match it up and verify that it's legitimate. So that's kind of the reasoning behind the due date change last year. Again, this due date change went into effect last year, but it's still going on this year, and it's still a little bit confusing. But if you see information in box 7, that's going to be the red flag. You need to have this done by January 31st. My advice regarding all of these is quite simply, just do everything by January 31st. And I'm going to walk through and show you how easy it is to get everything done in one fell swoop in Nell Co's application. And so give me just one second, and I'm going to pull up your Rentec application here. And so again, I would recommend having everything done by January 31st, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. So you're probably familiar with this screen from Rentec Direct. We're going to just go to Settings, Utilities, and find this 1099 e-file and print. Go ahead and click on that. And it's going to bring up a list of the people that you might have to be sending a 1099 to. And as you can see, we have 2 vendors here and 2 owners listed. ABS Landscaping, Rough Cut, Renee Hoffman, and Johnson Investments. As you can see, there's some information missing in the Rough Cut file. You do need to have valid tax IDs for anybody that you're filing a 1099 to. Highly recommend getting that up front before you ever cut a vendor or an owner a check. Highly recommend getting this information into your Rentec Direct system so that way you're not sitting there at the end of January going, I have to file a 1099 to this person. Why can't I get there? So once we're done there, I'm not ready to file Rough Cut, so I'm just going to leave them unchecked. And we're just going to continue with these 3. We'll come back maybe at a later date and do Rough Cut once we get that. But we don't want to hold up all of our 1099s just for that one person who's having trouble getting us their tax information. So once you've selected the people, you've confirmed the payment amount is correct right here. Go ahead, click Continue to Next Step. It's going to give you a status of ready to transmit on all of these. And just continue to Next Step. And this will basically tell you what's going to happen is that Rentec Direct is going to take your information for your 1099s, and it is going to transmit it over to Nell Co. Once you're ready, click Continue to Nell Co to initiate e-file. and you'll be landed on this page. This is our basic login screen. If you've never logged in with us before, click Create Account. Super easy process. All you have to do is put in name, address, city, state, and zip, phone number, email address, and create a password. I already have one, so I am going to just log in with that email address and password that I've created. And the first screen that you're going to be dropped on is called Forms in Progress. And basically, this is where you're going to choose what you want Nell Co to do for you. So we have a couple different options here. As you can see, you can, at this point as well, uncheck anybody you do not want to proceed with. Maybe there's somebody that you brought in, probably not, but maybe there's somebody you brought in that you didn't want to go ahead with. You can uncheck them. Now, as you see, anybody that unchecks, over here, you'll see the check marks disappear. And that is basically going to be a summary of what we're going to do for which people, for which 1099 vendors. So in this case, let's talk about the three services. Federal e-filing. This is where we're going to file this directly to the IRS on your behalf. You don't need to go out and upload anything. You don't need to go out and print anything. We're just going to send it electronically to the IRS on your behalf. State filing. Again, this is where we're going to send to the states right here. It'll list any states that we're going to be sending it to. In this case, all three of these people have revenue that need to be reported to the state of Oregon. And we have recipient mail and online retrieval. This is the really fun one. This is where we will go ahead and print and mail these 1099s directly to these recipients. Now, as you can see, this is a really cool option because it eliminates any paper for you guys that you need to be done. You don't need to print and mail anything. You don't need to take this and send it off to an accountant to do this. You don't need to upload it to a different website. You don't need to do any of that. All you do is click a button in your Rentec, and you're right here. Up above here, we have a couple bundles. This one is just the full bundle. This one doesn't have state filing. If for some reason you didn't want to do state filing, that option is available to eliminate there. There is a little bit of savings for using a bundle versus choosing the services a la carte. And we'll get to pricing here in just 1 second, and I'll show it to you guys. So let's go ahead and from here, just go ahead and click Next. Now this is the Add Edit Recipient emails. This is a really fun way to basically deliver your 1099 recipients their emails. If you have your 1099 recipients' email addresses inside of Rentec, they'll populate in here. And this is going to send them an email and says, hey, we've prepared a copy of your 1099 for you. Go ahead, click here, put in the last 4 digits of your Social Security number, and it will pull up their 1099 for them to download electronically. If they delete that email, if they don't open it or anything, no big deal. If the email address goes somewhere else, not a big deal. We're just going to print and mail them a form directly to them so they don't have to worry about retrieving that email. If for some reason they don't retrieve it, we're still just going to print and mail the form directly to them. Click Next. Submit form screen. If you want to see what the forms are going to look like prior to us printing and mailing them, go ahead and click Preview Forms. And it's just going to bring up exactly what we'll be sending out to these vendors and tenants. Owners. You can go ahead and print this file right here. You can save this file if you want to stop and come back to it later. That's all up to you. No problem at all. Just go ahead and print that file, and we'll be good to go there. Second. Sorry, computer ran slow there. And then if you also want to get a summary of all these, just go ahead and click Summary Report, and that will break down exactly how much you've paid total. Whoops, sorry about that. Give me just 1 second. Sorry about that, little technical glitch here, log me out. Security does have a timeout on this. There we go. So anyway, the summary report will break down exactly what all your summaries are for the total payments that you paid out. So again, you can go back into your Rentec Direct and confirm this information there. You can also look at the detail report. That's just going to be a CSV line by line, kind of a format that you can use. Once you're ready and this all looks good, go ahead and click Next. If you've never worked with us before, go ahead and click Add a Card. Put in your payment information. This isn't a secure third party, so Nell Co does not store this. It's stored off-site at a secure third party. Put in your credit card information. Save it, and then once you're ready, click Pay and Submit. And just like that, your 1099s are done. So what are we going to do? We're going to electronically file these forms to the IRS, federal government. We're going to file these forms to the state. We're going to mail these forms directly to the recipient. We're going to post these forms at online retrieval. That's with the emails for the 1099 recipients if you have them. And then we're also going to make these forms available on PDF if you want to save those PDFs or print those PDFs off for your records. So a couple quick questions, a couple quick common things that people have. One common question people have is, when do I need to do this by? And the answer when you need to do it by is as soon as possible. However, you do have up until 8 o'clock Eastern time on January 31st. So on that last day of the filing deadline, you can go up to 8 o'clock Eastern time, click through and get to that submission screen, and we will still get your 1099s filed that same day. Or we'll get them out that same day, so you should be good. I would recommend that you do it sooner than January 31st. However, that is available as a last-minute option if need be. Another common question people have is, what's the status of my batch? Like, so I submitted this, did it actually go through to the IRS? Were the forms actually printed and mailed out? You can click in here to Form Filing History. Click on this Check Status icon. And what it'll do is it'll tell you exactly what is going on with your batch. So for the federal filing, this order has been confirmed. Once it's been completed and sent to the agency, this will update. You'll also get email updates throughout the process. So when we send this to the IRS, you'll get an email saying your submission has been sent to the IRS. When we send to the state of Oregon, it'll say, hey, this has been sent to the state of Oregon. When these recipient mailings are sent, you'll get an email saying this is updated and it has been sent out to the recipients. And so you can go in here and see at any point exactly what's going on with your order. If you have somebody that says, hey, I never received my 1099 miscellaneous, can you send me another one? Another common question. And when you do that, you have two common things you can do. Number one, you can go to this little printer icon. Click, choose the person you want to reprint for. Let's say it's ABS Landscaping. Choose the copies you want to reprint. Click Download. And here is a PDF that you can print off and send directly to them. However, what I would highly recommend doing, if you have the ability to, when you're on the phone with them, say they call you again and say, hey, I never got my copy of my 1099 miscellaneous, can you send it to me? Go ahead to this little envelope icon, and it'll bring up the email for them. So go ahead and find person, say it's ABS Landscaping, and say, well, what email address would you like it sent to? Say it's ABS Landscaping at yahoo.com. Go ahead and click Send Email. And what that's going to do is that's going to generate a new email where all they have to do is go out, punch in the last 4 digits of their tax identification number, and they'll be the 1099 electronically. You don't have to print anything. You don't have to mail anything out to them. It's the easiest way to get a new 1099 out to a vendor or an owner that you're looking to send that to. So with that, I am going to toss up one other quick poll here. And why don't you go ahead and answer that quick poll, and we'll come back and we'll have some time for questions and answers. All right, thank you everybody for completing that. As you can see, there's pretty evenly split throughout all the different people that have different filing methods for their 1099. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. So really quick one to get in questions and answers. And again, if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and enter them into the GoToWebinar screen. And under questions there, you can type your question in and we will do our best to get them answered. One question you came through is, what about services performed by a partnership that was more than $600 or sole proprietor? So yeah, so an LLC is the most common question about that. And most common question about that, most common answer to an LLC or a partnership, if it's not a corporation, is when in doubt, file it. There are a couple very unusual times when you would not want to file a 1099 for an LLC, but those are pretty few and far between. So I would recommend that if there are any doubts about whether or not you should file them, go ahead and send them a 1099. Obviously, if they're a corporation, do not do so, but any other time, go ahead and send them a 1099. Couple questions coming in about pricing, and let's go ahead. The easiest way to find pricing is come on here to our website and click how it works. Actually, I should say the easiest way for pricing is right in your Rentec software. From here, more info and costs. Pricing goes right here. And the pricing is totally dependent upon how much or how many you're filing and what services you're looking for us to perform. And so if you are filing, most people we noticed were filing less than, or 20 or less than forms, so we'll stick in this first column right here. If you want us to do this, the full service, that's federal e-file, state e-file, and recipient delivery, it's going to be $536 per filing. So for 10 filings, that'd be $53.60. And on up, you guys can do the math from there. We seem to think that that's a pretty competitive offering, especially down in some of those smaller quantities, and how easy it is. So again, about $5.36 for the full amount. If you did not want us to do states, or you were in a state that didn't require state filing, you can $4.85 a piece. So there's pricing. Let me see. Give me 1 second, and I'll look up some other questions here. A question, what about 1099s for individuals outside of the United States? I believe that will function the same way. There may be a slight additional charge for foreign mailing or for international mailing. I believe that sending it to individuals outside the United States will function. That's a relatively new feature with our system. Splitting rents received before and after. I'm going to go ahead and leave that for Rentec to answer as far as getting that data prepped and ready to come to Nell Co. As far as once Nell Co receives that file or receives that information, we're going to go ahead and send it. And getting the data prepped correctly inside of Rentec is, I'll leave that to Heather and Catherine to answer if they'd like, or follow up with you at a later date. Do I have to file a 1099 miscellaneous for property owners? Anybody you paid out $600 or more in rents or gross payouts, you will need to file a 1099 for. So that includes a property owner, then yes. Heather and Catherine are letting me know that they will go ahead and follow up with anybody whose questions are not answered and specific questions about Rentec. They will go ahead and follow up with them regarding what they're going to be, or different questions pertaining to Rentec Direct. So one question, if I was told I have a property manager anytime during the year I have to file 1099s. If I'm an owner and manage myself, I don't have to file 1099. Is this true? Yeah, if you're managing your own properties, you would not have to file a 1099 because you are not paying money out. recognize you might have a 1099 sent to you if somebody pays you more than $600 in rents during the course of business, but you would not have to pay any 1099s out to anybody. I signed on late. Will this webinar be available after the live presentation? Yes, it will be. We are doing a recording, and we will make that recording available to everybody. There's a question about change of ownership during the year. I'm not sure exactly what the question is there. As far as how it goes, whether they, if you mean they went to an LLC or they went from an LLC to a corporation, if they changed during the year. If that's the question, I would recommend contacting your accountant and making sure that that you're following the directions that way as far as whether or not you need to file a 1099 for them. I don't know the exact question of how you would handle somebody who changed in the middle of the year. You can also check, by the way, the Rentec Direct blog for more tips and advice for filing 1099s. Rentecdirect.com/blog, and search for 1099s. So again, that's rentecdirect.com. We'll run out there really quick. Second. So from here, if you go ahead and search 1099, you will get more fun 1099 tips that you can search for at rentecdirect.com/blog. Thank you very much, Casey. All right, I'm looking for other questions that we have not answered. You guys got these questions coming quick. Sorry, I'm skimming through here, just making sure I caught everything. And again, any questions that were not followed up on, specifically ones that are looking for Rentec Direct specific questions, we will follow up with you guys at a later time. Also, there is a knowledge base link at the bottom of the account, which has useful instructions. So at any point, you can go out to knowledge base down here and your Rentec software. A lot of useful information out here, out in the Rentec Direct knowledge base. Well, with that, I think we are going to go ahead and wrap up. We're at a little over half an hour there, which historically I found that most people get a little bit tired and a little bit antsy about a half-hour mark. So thank you very much for joining us today. I apologize for the little technical glitch a little while ago. However, I hope this has been helpful to you. And let us know if there's any questions we can answer. We will follow up with any additional questions as time goes on, and we will also have the recording available for you guys to view as a follow-up service. So let us know, again, if there's any questions you have. Also, if you have any questions about e-filing, you can go ahead and reach out to and contact your Nell Co rep, 800-266-4669. Nell Co at nellcosolutions.com is a good email address, and we'll get you connected to the right person. Also, nellcosolutions.com has a chat functionality. You can go out there and chat with any of our reps, and we can get you exactly what you need as far as e-filing and answering any questions you might have. Thank you very much. I'm glad hopefully this has been helpful, and I'm happy to do it for you guys anytime.